So what is up people, welcome to the new video, and in this video we will be covering about Docker volume. So we will cover what is Docker volume, and we will cover container to container volumes, host to container volumes, and we will see how you can develop your applications using Docker volume with the help of Docker volume. So it makes it really easy to develop your applications, and those are running directly in your Docker container. So you can develop directly inside Docker, and you can edit your files inside your local machine. So let's get started. So let's suppose you have your local machine. This is your local machine, right? And you have some files, or you have a directory on your local machine. Let's say this is your application directory, right? So inside you have your application code. Let's say you have some files like app.js or some package.json, right? So it is basically a application, Node.js based application, and let's say you are running this application on Node.js 14 version, right? And if this application requires Node.js 14 version, or it is developed on Node.js 14 version, so maybe you don't have Node.js 14 version on your local, so you have Node.js 18 version, right? So if you want to modify this project or this application, maybe you want only Node.js 14 version to modify this because you want to run this application in your local. So how you will do that? Maybe you have to change your Node.js version on your local machine, but that is not a good idea, right? Let's say you have to do a modify as some different application that requires Node.js 16 version, so you have to change your version again and again. So what if you have a separate environment for running your application? You can do that with Docker, right? So let's say you are running a container, and inside that container you can pull a Node.js 14 image, or you can run directly a Docker container by Node.js 14 image, right? So let's say this container you are running, this is running on Node.js 14 version, right? And you can run directly this application on this server on a Docker, right? So let's say on Docker you are running it on 80 port, and you have mapped on your local machine to 3000 port. Okay, so now you can see what are the changes you have done on your local machine in this code, right? But what if you again change something inside your app.js file? So inside Docker you have the same files, right? Because you copy those files. But if you change this file here, this will not be changed inside the Docker, right? So inside the container it will not be changed. So you have to again run your container, right? So how you can prevent on this? You can make use of Docker volumes, right? So how you can use that? Docker volume, basically what it does, it basically takes this app directory, and inside your Docker container you also have a directory, right, where you copy your application, right, your application files. So you can basically map these two directories, and you can say that this is a volume, and please in Docker this directory will map to this directory. So whatever you will change in this directory on your local, that will be changed automatically inside the Docker container. And if you are in a different scenario, if you are changing something on your Docker container, so that will be auto changed inside your local machine, right? So another reason can be like if you are running on a container, and on container you have changed some file, but containers are temporary, right, on if you are running locally, right? And so your data will be lost if your container is lost, right? So if you are mapped up using volume, these two directories using volume, so your data will be there, right, will be inside your local machine, right? So or another scenario is if let's say you have your local machine and you are running two containers, and you want that whatever you change on one container, that will be changed on the second container. Let's say it has a directory app, or it has a directory app, and you want to map these two directories, right? And you are changing something on this Docker container, in this application, so you want that this change will be applied on the second container also. Let's say it is a container 1 and it is container 2, right? And you want that whatever you will change on container 1, so that will be changed inside this directory also on container 2. So you can map these using Docker volume. So you can create a Docker volume here, and you can create another container by taking volume from this container. And one thing to note here, if you are you have created a volume, so you can create volume, or you can take volume only at the time of creating the container. If you have created container, after that you cannot make volumes. So first of all you have to make volumes like while you are running your Docker containers, right? Okay, so let's see some theories about Docker volume. So if you go here, you can see, so these are some theoretical things, volume is simply a directory inside of containers, right? And firstly we have to declare the directory as a volume, then we can share the volume. If we stop container, still we can access volume, right? And volume will be created in one container, so you only create volume in one container and other containers can take that volume, right? You can map that volume directory to other containers. You can declare directory as a volume only while creating containers, that I already told you, right? You can't create volume from existing container. You can share one volume across any number of containers. Let's say if you created a volume on the container 1, right? So this directory, let's say this app directory is a volume, so whatever number you are creating a container, and you can take this volume here and here in app directory. So how many numbers of container you can create, you don't need to care about that. So Docker volume will not be included when you update an image. So this is the important point. When this Docker volume only works when you are running a container. After, if you are building an image after the container, if you are building that container as an image, so in image this will not be updated. Okay, so you can map volume in two ways: container to container and host to container, as we saw. So if you are running two containers or three containers, and you want the changes may be applied will be applied to all of those containers, so you can map container to container volume. Or you are developing some application on your local, and you want that whatever you change on your local machine, that will be changed on the container, so you can use host to container volume, right? So let's see some other benefits of volume. You can see like decoupling container from storage, share volume among different containers, attach volume to containers, and on deleting container, volume does not delete, right? This is the important point. And let's see how you can create a volume. So this is container to container volume. So this is like how you can create a container to container volume using command line, right? So let's say we already know we can run a container using docker run command, and this is for interactive mode, and we are naming the container. And this is the important flag here for specifying the volume. So we are specifying the volume while creating a first container, right? So we are creating the container 1 here, and we are saying that create container 1, right? And this volume 2 will be a directory, right, inside this. So this will be a directory, volume 2, and this will be a volume, right? So this is specified as a volume in container 1. Now if you want to share this volume, let's say you are creating another container, so you are creating container 2, right? So this is container 2, and you are you want that you want to share the volume from container 1 to this container 2, right? So this is container 2, and here if you want to share, so you can add this flag here, volumes from container 1. So you have specified container 1, so it will take the container volume to this, and it will create the same directory volume 2 here. So your directories will be mapped as a volume. So whatever you will change here, it will be changed here, and if you are changing something from container 2, so it will be changed in container 1. And you can also create your docker volume from a docker file. You can specify in docker file like volume, you know. So here we can see like from Ubuntu is the base image, and we are specifying the volume here. So as in the command line we are specifying we were specifying the volume inside the command, this flag, right? And here we are specifying it in the docker file only. So we are creating the volume here. So whenever if you build this image, let's say it is a my volume image, you build it, my volume image, and when you run this container, so it will create the volume, that will be my volume 1. Okay, so here you can see, okay, this is there is some error here, so you can change it. This is build, not build. So docker build, we are tagging our image, my image or dot, in the current directory. So we have built our image, so just like this, let's say we have built our image, and now we can run this image as a container, right? So it is run, and here is build, right? So we are running the container. Now inside here, when we are running our container, we are not specifying that v flag for the volume, because we have already declared our volume inside the docker file. Okay, so we are just running our image as a container. How you can share that volume with another container? The same command we followed in the last. This you can take volumes from container 1. You can say volume from container 1, and you can specify your another image for your container 2, and you can specify the shell you want that interact with the shell, right? So let's see, the another one is host to container volume. It's really simple. When you if you want to share a local directory, let's say this is your local machine, right? And you have a directory, let's say app, right? And you want to share this as a volume, so you can if you are creating a container, this is container c0, let's say. So you can map a directory inside your Docker container. Let's say this directory is work, so you can map these two, right, as a volume. So you can see here, this is a directory of your local, okay? This is directory of your local machine, and this is the directory where you want to map inside the Docker container, right? Inside the container, and you have to add this dot here. So this you can say like pwd for current working directory, and you can specify these column here, and you can name your Docker directory here, let's say my volume, right? So these two directories will be mapped. So whatever you will change on your local, that will be changed inside your Docker container directory, and whatever you will change inside Docker, that will be changed inside your local directory, right? So this is the command you can run, right? So now let's see how we can use volume in the real time. So let's open our command line and try some commands. So I'm inside a directory here. So first of all, let's see which kind of volume we want to create. So first of all, let's say which was our volume first. So you can see container to container volume. We want to a container to container volume using command line, right? So let's say how many images we have first of all, right? So we have a Ubuntu image already pulled from the Docker registry, and now if you want to run a container, let's create a first container, and we want to create a volume there, right? So let's name it, we can name it container 1, okay? Container 1, and now specify the volume here, -v volume. You can say directory, which directory, you can say my volume, okay? And specify your image name ubuntu sh. Now you are inside your container. If you do ls, you will see your my volume directory is here, it is created, right? If you go inside my volume, so you will see it is empty, right? Now let's create another container, okay? So now let me create another container here, docker run it name container 2, okay? And what you have to specify here, you will not specify this flag here, you will specify volumes from, okay? So add this volumes from container 1, okay? Now specify your image name and sh. Now if you do ls here, you will see my volume directory is here also created, right? And if you go into my volume directory, you will see there is nothing, right? Now if you create a file inside your container 2, okay, notice here we are inside the container 2, and if I create a file here, let's say app.js, and now if I go to container 1, so now here I do ls, so you can see the directories, this file is created here also, right? So these two directories are mapped my volume, right, from container to container, right? And now it doesn't matter, we can only connect two containers directly. We can you can share one volume with how many containers, whatever the number you want, right? So if you create one more container, let me create one more container, it name container 3, and specify volumes from container 1. Here you notice we are not taking volume from container 2, we are only taking the volume from container 1 because we have created volume in container 1, right? Container 1. And now here you can specify your image name and as such. Now here inside you can see my volume is there, and if you go inside you can see app.js. And now if I create one more file here, let's say package.json, and if you go to container 2, do ls, you will see package.json is created. You can see here also, if you do ls in container1, so here it is also created. So that's the way how this container to container volume works, right? So now if I do exit from this containers and this also, so now let's see how you can create a volume from a Docker file. So first of all, let's create a Docker file. So inside, first of all, specify your base image from Ubuntu, and here what we need to specify volume. Okay, so let's say volume 1. So we have created my volume in using command line, but here we are taking the different name for our volume directory. Let's say volume 1. Okay, and let's save it. Now let's build this image using docker build. So run docker build command, tag it like my volume image, and just dot here. So it built our image. Now if you see docker images, you can see my volume image is here, right? Now what we need to do, we need to run docker run it and just name our container. Let's say container from image, and now specify your image name here and just add sh. So here if you focus, if you notice, like we have not added the v flag here because we have already declared the volume inside the docker image while creating inside the docker file, right? So if you do ls here, you will see volume 1 also here. Okay, yeah, so here you can see volume 1 is there, right? Volume 1 directory is there, and also we can create some other containers. We can say container 1, and what was the container name we have created? Container from image. Let's create a container. Let's create a new container. Let's say container 2, and add volumes from flag here, volumes from container from image, right? And just specify your image name and sh. If you ls here, you will see volume 1 here, and if you go inside this directory volume 1, you will see ls, you will see nothing. If you create some file, let's say app.js, so you will see that here also. Go inside volume 1 and ls, you will see app.js here, and if you create a file here, let's say new.js, so you will see inside container 2 also. Okay, now if you do ls, you will see new.js is here, right? So now let's see how you can work with host to container volumes, right? So let's exit from these containers, and let's say what we have inside our directory. We have the docker file only. Let's create another directory, dir host to container volume. Okay, let's go inside, and if you do ls here, so there is nothing, right? If I want to create a container, and that will be mapped to my local directory here. So how I can do that? Let me create first a file here. Okay, app.js. So now my local directory, in my local directory I have app.js file, and now let me create a volume. Let me create a container with volume, right? So docker run it name h2c, let me name it h2c. Okay, and now we have to specify the volume. How? Slash dash v, and here specify your pwd current working directory, add a column here, and here you can specify my volume. Now specify your image and sh. Now you are inside your container, right? And here if you see, you can see my volume directory is here. If you go inside this, you can see app.js is here because we have created app.js inside our local directory. Now if I change something, if I remove app.js, so it will be removed here. If you go to this directory on your local, you can see app.js is removed, right? If you do ls. Now let me create another one, new.js, and if you do ls here, new.js is created. So this is how you can map your host directory to a container directory, right, using volumes. So this was the main benefit of volumes, you can like map directories between Docker containers and your hosts and your container to container volumes. So if you like this video, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.